Good afternoon. This is Damien David with Healthcare Triangle. Welcome back to Week in Review. This is episode number 37. Already 37. March 5th, 2021. Just going to read through some headlines today. I had an awesome conversation, rounded up a couple of my compadres throughout the healthcare industry over the years. Folks I work with now, folks I worked with in the past, that representing both Healthcare Triangle as well as another organization that's kind of on the cutting edge and very progressive in healthcare space, especially around storage, pure storage. So those two companies kind of come together and it gets a little bit wild. So that conversation went a little bit long. So instead of doing the full music and photos on the outro, I'm just going to give you a sneak peek, a little taste of what the music will be on episode 38. So what's to come on that? A little bit of a teaser, if you will. Sorry about that. I want to try to keep these under a half an hour, and in order to do that, I had to make some cuts. And this week it was on the music side, but it's a teaser. So if you like the beginning of the music this episode, then you'll like next episode. Okay, so let's get into the headlines. Long COVID. That's something I mentioned a couple weeks ago, January 29th episode of Week in Review. Went through some of the symptoms of long COVID. Well, it's a thing. So back then, people were thinking, there's some people that are experiencing some long-standing symptoms of COVID, if you will, long after they're starting to test negative again when they've had it. So it's a thing. So much that National Institutes of Health is investing over $1 billion to study it. So what they're coining or calling post-acute sequelae of SARS-CoV-2 infection, or PASC, P-A-S-C. More to come on that. They're starting to study the long-term effects of COVID on some of the folks that have it and recover from it. Okay, let's jump into the vaccines. This week, Johnson & Johnson one-dose vaccine is now approved and is available. It's made its way into New York City, as a matter of fact, and they're starting to distribute it there. Biden claims that with J&J and Merck, a competing company that's decided to actually help manufacture that vaccine with Johnson & Johnson, with those, the U.S. will have enough vaccine for all adults by the end of May. I don't know about that. That's cutting pretty short here. That's 2 months. So we'll see how that rolls out. Okay. I'll keep track of that one. All right. On that note, as the vaccines come out, states are already starting to relax on their restrictions to slow the spread of COVID. Some are relaxing on mask usage rules and laws. Others are opening spaces up and returning back to normal, per se. So right now we're seeing this as a trend. Texas, Mississippi, Connecticut, those are the 3 latest states to ease up on the restrictions. I don't know if it's a great idea. My stance on this whole thing for the past 36, 37 episodes of this thing, like, I'm masking up. So even myself, I'm not in a sports coat this morning. I'm packed up and ready to go. I coach my son's hockey. We're a travel team, so we're heading up to Minnesota right after I record this and publish this to the web. We're masking up for sure. We're actually carpooling with a group of people that we don't live with. We'll be masked up in the car even. So that's the extent of which we take it seriously. I'm hoping that you guys do as well. Let's keep up the diligence and the efforts. It's not a lot to wear a mask. My whole hockey team is 10 and under. They're wearing masks all the way throughout the tournament, even while they're playing this weekend, because that's the requirements of the tournament. We've been practicing it for the past couple of weeks. Took a little bit of an adjustment to get used to. Initially, people complained when it gets wet, the mask feels like you're being waterboarded. It's true to a certain extent, but I've been running. I've been working out. I've been practicing with a hockey team. I've been playing hockey myself with a mask most of the time. And I don't know, if you're in shape, it doesn't bother you, right? So I know a lot of athletes actually put those masks on to train for that point. Okay, so so keep it up. Hopefully you'll share with each other and you'll wear the masks and you'll distance and you'll keep up with the diligence. Not everybody's had the vaccine. In fact, most people have not. Most people won't for the next 3 weeks. So I don't know that relaxing on the diligence that you spent so much time and energy over the past year dedicating yourself and your families to, now's maybe not the right time. So, and I, Dr. Fauci, every week I do a This Week Fauci Says. This week his quote helps me in that mindset. So this week Fauci says, have y'all done lost your minds? No, actually, no, he didn't say that. I said that. But this is what he said this week. I understand the need to want to get back to normality, but you're only going to set yourself back if you just completely push aside the public health guidelines, particularly when you're dealing with anywhere from 55,000 to 70,000 infections per day in the United States. End quote. So I guess his point is that, yeah, we have vaccines on the horizon, yet we still have over 70,000 infections per day, new infections per day being reported in the U.S. So now's not the time to not mask up. Let's jump into the stats. COVID-19 stats. World confirmed cases this week were up to 116 million cases. Again, growing 70,000 infections per day. Last week, actually, it's been about 2 weeks now, since the last week in review, we were sitting at 110 million cases. So that's up 6 million cases in just 2 weeks. Of that, 65.4 million have recovered, up from 62.2 million 2 weeks ago. And then we've had 2.57 million deaths around the world from COVID, up from 2.44 million deaths 2 weeks ago. Just within the confines of the U.S. border, we've had 28.9 million cases, up from 27.9 million cases 2 weeks ago. So we're trending at about 1 million every other week, new cases. And we surpassed, we're 520,000 deaths from COVID within the U.S., up from 493,000 deaths 2 weeks ago. Okay, so that is the headlines for this week. I now jump to a conversation with a couple of colleagues that I used to work with at my Meditech days back in the day. They've both been gone off and done other things in their careers and landed at Pure Storage. And then I'm also inviting two of my colleagues from Healthcare Triangle to talk. I don't know, in the background, Joe and Chris from my team at Healthcare Triangle said, yeah, we talked to Priscilla and Chris, being Priscilla Sandberg and Chris Bokus from Pure Storage. We were on a call. We were trying to see if there's a project we could do together. We had a lot of fun. It would be perfect for one of those weekend reviews. I thought about it for about, maybe a half a second and said, yeah, that would be a lot of fun. And you know what? It was. So again, I'm cutting the music end and the photo end of this episode short so that we could play out the full session that I had with kind of getting back together and having a technology roundtable in the height of COVID around the healthcare industry conversation. I thought it was really a lot of fun. Put them all in the hot seat too. We had 5 hot seat questions, including myself, that we answered, so that was fun. Let's check it out. So what we're going to see Joe Grinstead and Chris Paulman from Healthcare Triangle, myself, and then joining us from Pure Storage, we'll see Priscilla Sandberg and Chris Bokus. Pleasure to have them on. Let's jump over now. This looks like, I don't know, this is like a party of the geeks. Am I right? How's everybody doing?
Excuse me.
Like it or not, Priscilla.
I know.
So hey, it's great to see everybody. I've actually had the benefit of working with everybody on the phone here at one time or another, some more reason than others. So this is really kind of a special one for me. 2020, even 2021, COVID-19, we're all in the healthcare industry. We all do technology or try to do technology in the healthcare industry. We all know what that used to mean back in the day. I feel like the word progressive wasn't necessarily tied into healthcare technology. It seems as though financials and the manufacturing worlds were kind of laughing at us in the healthcare area. But you guys know as well as I do, COVID-19 kind of threw away all the rules, took away all the boundaries, kind of slapped the hands of all the heel diggers that kind of dug their heels in and didn't let us to try the new fun stuff in healthcare. That's all gone by the side of the road. It's a new day. We've seen what happened in 2 or 3 months, what we couldn't make happen in 7 years of the ARA Meaningful Use project. It just happened to seem to happen overnight, and is even though people are trying to pull it back and get back to some sort of normal, I don't think it's ever going to go back. I think now we know how quick it can go. We're going to push the envelope. So with that said, I have a great opportunity with everybody on this call. Like, we've seen some different perspectives than a lot of people. We've held different titles, roles, different company types in healthcare over the past handful of years. Tell me what you've seen over the past 5 years, and then especially what you've seen in the past 12 months of this pandemic. Shed some light on it. What were some of the big surprises, whether they be successes or failures? I kind of want to hear it, and I don't know. Does somebody want to jump into it, or do you want me to point or pick somebody?
Pick somebody, Damien.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna pick somebody.
Priscilla's got to go first. She's got the best.
Actually, I will pick on you, Priscilla. I'll send you
fair.
the fire first. What do you got?
Well, I mean, I think you kind of captured it by saying that, healthcare has always moved slowly. And I think that what I've seen in my career is that if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? And what COVID has done is really push the envelope on that. And one of the more interesting things that I saw at Pure starting the beginning of last year was they say all these Meditech sites are buying storage. What are they doing? What are they doing? All of a sudden, this influx, and it's because they pushed all their workers out to home. Right. So all the healthcare companies, everybody went home and they needed access to the system and they needed storage infrastructure to support it. So when the pandemic hit, I said to Chris, I don't know what we're going to do here. And then the next thing you know, we were being inundated. So the whole moving to work from home is totally untraditional from a hospital perspective. And I think that that's something that we're going to continue to see as administrators realize there are people who they can deploy at home who can be effective in their positions and perhaps have a better work-life balance.
I'll add on to that. That was actually one of the things that we noticed that, a lot of people say, healthcare got hit so hard with COVID. It actually just made them think a little bit different. That's what it made them think, right? Because not only did they have to do the traditional work, but they also had to do all this new stuff, all these new activities that they had to be prepared and allow the doctors and the nurses to be able to do these things as people are making things up, all right? And have those resources that were once really tight. We all know, Meditech hospitals, there's usually one guy. And then there's two others that were promoted because they unjammed a printer at some point, all right? Now they're on IT, okay? So, and those qualifications got them to where they are, but now they're having to take on all these new umbrellas, and they were really leaning on us to say, how do we do this? Can we do this? Do you guys even have the equipment to be able to do this? But I'll give them a lot of credit because even in the storm, they were also starting to think long term. They were starting to say, wait a second, am I going to be getting rid of this in 9 months? Am I going to have to talk to you about another lease in a year from now? And are you really going to jam me then with these costs? So they couldn't make these, rash decisions without actually talking to some folks. So I actually give them a credit for having that cool head. Well, a lot of them anyways.
Sure.
I know. I spoke with colleagues too that they had to, even though they had maybe remote capabilities set up for a few handful of remote workers, all of a sudden they had to scale out and scale up into a mass amount of users in that fashion, and that really, to what Chris just said too, was they had to kind of think outside the box and go down and do things that they kind of wanted to, maybe they were pursuing, but all of a sudden they really had to push into deploying that kind of capability. And I think a lot of them did it great. And as far as taking it on and accomplishing the task and getting their users into a position where they could continue to be functional.
And I think a big change has been the tolerance for risk, because I think some of the reason healthcare IT is where it has been is because there's always been a low tolerance for risk. Because, we're dealing with patients, people's lives. This is important stuff. Not that money is not important and manufacturing is not important, but it just feels different when it's healthcare. But I think what we either had the opportunity to or were forced to do was learn to accept more risk. the moving and implementing solutions without doing it so slow because we wanted to make sure every I was dotted, every T was crossed, every firewall was built, and I think there's probably things that we did in this that, we're now talking to people where they're going back and cleaning it up a little bit, trying to, nail up the security a little more. But I think we also discovered, we can move a lot faster, and nothing fell apart that big. I mean, the reward was worth the risk, and I think that's going to change the way we think about things in healthcare IT.
Yeah. Well, I sure hope so. I know we all do our fair share of conversations with healthcare leaders across at least the U.S., Canada, English-speaking markets for sure, around the world. We're starting to get into those conversations. 2021 and 2022 are going to pose similar, if not, well, they might even be drastically different, right? Because we're coming off the end of this pandemic where, everybody scrambled, and now we're starting to see residual effects that come out potentially good and bad. The healthcare executive or healthcare leadership, when it comes to technology, they're going to have to make some more decisions as they go. As you mentioned, Chris Book, it's the into the future and beyond. Hopefully they started something they can extend. They're not going to have to pull something out they just bought and then throw something else in, or things are going to catch up where now they started slow and now they're getting hammered cost wise on it. What can we extend, branches of olives or some sort of rope into a pit of sand or quicksand for these CIOs or these leaders around there? What can we share with them? What should they be thinking of? Are there tips, suggestions, cut to the chase? Like, what can we give them?
I think, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say real quick, just at a high level, I think the big thing I keep talking to healthcare IT leaders about is being agile and positioning yourself to change and pivot quickly. Because I think with what we've gone through in the last year or so, the genie's out of the bottle, and our customer base out there, the clinicians and the administrators and others, they've now seen that we can move fast if we decide to, and if we have to. So we've got to be ready to respond to that, because the expectations have gone from here to here now.
Exactly.
Not just agile, but being willing to attempt different technologies and maybe dabble in different areas that you wouldn't have wanted to waste any effort into, because you would have thought you had to put a whole team together and come up with concepts and planning. But instead of that, let some of your teams push into some of these areas and explore a little bit and find out if that technology is going to be a fit.
And that's an excellent segue into what I was going to say, which is we had a customer this year, last year, 2020, and they only made one capital purchase, and that capital purchase was Pure Storage. Now, they had been running this competitor for 15 years, and back to Joe's point, maybe you take a risk, right? So they take a risk, they put on their Medtech system onto Pure Storage, and they find that because of the simplicity of our system, they take two of the people that they had dedicated to the storage management, and they redeploy them into their telemedicine initiative and their virtual waiting room initiative. So back to Joe's point, if you don't take a risk, you'll never reap those rewards. And I think to Chris's point, when you invest in a technology, what can you do with that technology? This was not a stopgap solution. This wasn't a strategic initiative for them, but they ended up with this long-term benefit, not only of simplicity, but also being able to take staff that they really, really needed during a time of crisis. So I think the risk is worth the reward. And if things slow down, there's certainly, vetting of those opportunities that needs to happen, but more thinking outside the box, more looking at the possibilities. And that's sort of the upside of some of this crisis, I think.
Right.
That's interesting. Yeah, you took a cost center and you redeployed it, and you created two more sources of revenue in this time of pandemic. So that's
yeah, and more importantly, patient care, right? Because these hospitals, we all talk about technology and infrastructure, but we always forget that that's only there to support patient care. And if we can take an IT person and put them in a more direct patient care role, if nothing else, developing applications to support patient care, that's something I feel very proud of, and I'm glad that we're able to help hospitals that way.
That's a great point, Priscilla, and it makes me feel like a lesser human because you had to point that out. My mind was
that's what I was going for. Yeah.
Well, hey,
Well, and
so
I do want to
yes.
I just want to say,
Yeah.
Damien, to kind of play off of what Priscilla said. We talk a lot about the healthcare heroes and the frontline workers, the doctors, the nurses, and all those folks. But I want to put a shout out to the healthcare IT workers too, because they've done a lot of heroic stuff. And we've heard story after story, as I'm sure everybody has, of heroic work being done to support those caregivers and help the people they're trying to help. So, thanks to those people for doing that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree too. Good point, Joe. So the before we get to the hot seat question, which I like to put everybody on a hot seat I talk to, so I don't know that you have a choice about it now that you're on the call, unless your power goes out. But the before we get there, just real quickly, like let's say you could work with a leader of your choice in healthcare, no budget, no timeline, no limits, no changes. Is there anything that comes to mind that you would immediately deploy in the healthcare industry around technology that you think would improve patient care, would improve things for our communities and the people around us in the mindset of healthcare?
I know Mr. Bocas has a good answer. He always has a good answer for these things.
Well, now he just gave me a full budget. Usually, I'm not used to that. I'm used to
Right.
saving money, right?
So you don't know what to do.
It's funny because what I have on the tip of my head is something that you guys are actually doing today, but maybe even speed it up even faster. But have a real-time failover right to the cloud if somebody gets in trouble, whether it is a natural disaster or a ransomware attack, to be able to say switch. You're no longer on that system, you're on this system, but patient care does not come to a stop. It does not come to a halt. Data is not lost. Data is secure. Data is safe. Okay. And I think that is a challenge when we all talk to, well, we're very fortunate that we can go to our customers and we can say, you already have a lot of this capability in your data center today. We just need to do some pointing and some clicking, and we could set this up for you, okay? Where a lot of our competitors are like, no, we could do that for you. You just have to buy this, and this, and then you have to license all of it. And then but don't worry about that because we're going to replace that in 3 years anyway, so it doesn't matter. You don't have to learn it. And the reality is that we love our simplicity, but this is where I think that we all need to come together a little bit tighter and come up with solutions that these IT folks that you just complimented, and I absolutely second that. We got to give them more time in their day to be able to do things. All right, because they should not be bogged down with backups or worrying about what if the system gets attacked by ransomware. We have solutions out there. We need to get in front of these guys. And while it might not be the latest and the greatest, like yesterday's technology, they're 3 to 5 years behind. I mean, we all know that. Even with COVID, they still are 3 years behind, and that's our audience, and that's who we have to go and knock on their doors.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, Chris, and I would add on to it. I think if I had my dream project with no budget limits and all the right resources, I'd either figure out how to re-architect all of our EHRs or just write a new EHR that is as resilient and always on and available as Facebook. So, it's really, it bothers me to think about the fact that I have more confidence that Facebook is going to be up 24/7, 365 than I do some of the EHRs that are out there right now. And that just doesn't seem right. But it is the legacy that they're carrying with them. And gosh, wouldn't it be nice if we could just kind of stop, rewrite, restructure the whole thing and take all the lessons we've learned as the internet has evolved and say, hey, here's an EHR that ain't going to have to go down. We'll update in the background, and you'll never know. You'll just get a new feature on your browser, and it'll all be great. And I think there's some fundamental changes that have to happen there.
Facebook MD, I'll give you credit for that, Joe.
Oh, God, does that sound terrible? But
Well, hey, are you guys any last thoughts before I subject you guys to the hot seat question?
nah, bring it.
When you do
All
the
right,
video editing, Damien, will there be like a sound effect here for the hot seat question?
I I'm not going to edit this out, but yeah, I'll include an additional some sort of audio excitement as we get into the hot seat question. Thank you. I'll give you credit for that too, Joe. So, so I'm going to pick on Chris Paulman. I'm going to make you do this first.
Awesome.
Sure.
So the hot seat question is this, though. So this is the hot seat question. Tell me your coolest COVID impulse buy. What was it, and how did you buy it?
I don't have an answer. I don't think we did anything.
You didn't buy
You're gonna have to let me think.
All right. Well, I'll kick us off then, and then Priscilla, you're gonna go after me.
Okay.
I just bought a new trumpet for a pallet of goods that I'm never gonna use that came with a house I bought. Trade. Free trade.
Nice trade.
It's a great trumpet. Yeah, I'm very happy. All right, you're up, Priscilla.
Well, I will tell you about the uncoolest thing that I bought during COVID. So I decided that even though my entire ski outfit was perfectly fine because I had this, some money burning a hole in my pocket, I was going to go out and get a really nice ski outfit, replace the whole thing. So I go out to get the whole thing. I put it on. I get on my skis. I take one look at myself and realize I'm wearing the exact same ski outfit that my mother wore when she took us skiing in 1986. So, and it sort of ruined the whole thing for me. But I'm still wearing it because it was pretty nice, other than the part where, I look exactly like my mom when she was my age. So.
Oh, I doubt it. I doubt it.
That's awesome.
All right, who's next?
I'll go. So mine was a very practical purchase. I bought a standing desk. So I don't know if you can see on the video, it's going up and down.
Oh,
So I've been standing through this whole call, and I've been trying to stand more. But since I was going to be home and not traveling and not getting all my steps in the airports and stuff, I figured I'd get a standing desk. So real simple, clicked on Amazon, just like everything else I buy pretty much. There should be about 6 boxes delivered today. So
Yeah.
And then I bribed my daughter to put it together for me, so it worked out really well.
Nice.
That's great. That's
What
great.
about you, Chris Pocus?
All right. I bought a building, a 16 by 12 building that I am converting to a workshop for my hobby of renovation. So I'm moving finally out of my garage, which I have done a marvelous job trying to squeeze every inch of space out of, but it'll be nice to be able to go into my own shop. So
that's exciting. I like that. That's great. All right, Chris Paulman, circle back to you. What do you got for us now?
Well, so it's just been some knick-knacky little things. Like I bought a couple tools so I could putter around since we're kind of trapped in the house at times. And my wife had gotten, we got some, she likes doing some crafting work. And so she had gotten some stuff for her crafting obsession. And again, little things to putter around like that.
Nice.
Well, Chris, I can send you some of the invoices of the other purchases that I've made if it would make you feel better that you had something to brag about. So I'll just forward them your way. Just shoot me a check. It'll be all fine.
Well, hey, guys, I think that's a wrap. We can close this up here. It's awesome talking to you. I really appreciate the time that you took on this call. And even more than that, I appreciate getting a chance to see you guys more often than I would normally. So, hey, I don't know. Does anybody have a prediction on what event we're going to see each other in person at next?
HIMSS.
I think HIMSS is going to be the one making the hardest push.
All right. Well,
I don't think they haven't canceled it yet, which tells me that there's a lot of people with a lot of hope right now. And internally, I think that even people are starting to ask about events in August, and they're not getting the quick no, which absolutely tells me that there is hope in the air and that there is a need for humanity to return. And I really hope that happens.
well, hey,
Never thought I'd look forward to walking the floor at HIMSS, but I am.
I still haven't ever been to one. After being in the industry for 27 years, I still haven't been to a HIMSS. So I really hope they don't cancel it.
Well, hey, if it goes off, first and last rounds on me. It will be nice to see you guys in person. And yeah, take care until then. Thanks so much for doing this, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And again, a great thanks to Chris Bokus and Priscilla Sandberg from Pure Storage for doing this with us. It was a lot of fun. Really, also thanks to Joe Grinstead and Chris Paulman from Healthcare Triangle. I know you guys are crazy busy, so it was a treat to have you all on this week's video call for Week in Review. I appreciate it. I'm hoping we can do it again down in the future. And yeah, looking forward to seeing what comes from that. So now we're going to jump to just a teaser, if you will, a quick 30 seconds of next week's song that will be part of the Week in Review episode. Hey, have a great week. Thanks much for the energy, the efforts, the sacrifices you've been making for the safety of yourselves, your families, your loved ones, your friends, your communities, and those that you serve throughout the healthcare industry too. So it's not lost on us what you guys go through on a daily basis, and it's not lost on us how long you've been doing it. So keep it up, take care, be safe, and we'll see you next week. Take care.